What's happening, people? Welcome back to the 51st episode of the Mini Adult Troubles. In today's episode, we talk about journalism, we talk about social media, tech, and creators. Today's guest is a graduate of the prestigious Northwestern University, author of the book Refugee Changemakers, reporter, and senior digital producer at the Economic Times, Apurva Mittal. Welcome to the show. Glad to have you here.
Thanks for having me, Ayush. Very excited to be here.
Right. So before getting into tech, journalism, and all that, let's backtrack into your personal life. So you did your bachelor's in finance, right? From Bombay, and then you worked in Grant Thornton for like a couple of years. Wahan se, how did you make this switch, like a big pivot from finance to journalism?
Okay, so it wasn't in Bombay. It was actually in Singapore and Sydney. It
Oh,
was a
okay.
twin program, 2 years in Singapore and 2 years in Sydney. So basically, I graduated and I had this big dreams of becoming a consultant. And
Mhm.
I thought that, consultants basically just change uh, the world by, recommending some crazy strategies to
Yeah.
non-profit and profit the private sector. And
Uh,
then I actually started doing it. I was unimpressed,
yeah.
but I don't know if it was to do with the job or it was more to do with the kind of work that my mind wanted and craved. Journalism was nowhere on the radar at all.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I used to make these long lists of things and fields that interest me, but I was like always too scared to take a step in that direction. And by the time I was in my mid 20s, I was like, okay, I can't do this anymore, and I need to make some serious changes in my life.
Hmm.
And that's why I started writing on the side. Just after work, I used to come home and write about my travel and food experiences,
Right.
and start posting them as a blog. I had a WordPress
I
page, and
get that.
just started posting my stories on the blog. And yeah, like I really connected with this one person. His name is Dr. Daisaku Ikeda. He's a Buddhist philosopher.
Hmm.
And, understanding his life gave me a lot of courage and direction. And while I was reading one of his writings, which is basically a peace proposal he sends to the United Nations every year,
Yeah.
I came across this whole piece on refugees, because back in 2016, 15, there was like the whole crisis was taking over Europe. And in the proposal, he had recommended ways in which a host country, which is the place where the refugees come to, can help the refugees so they can go back and contribute to rebuilding their nation. So
Right.
I was very intrigued by that. And, like I thought, okay, why not actually find out stories of such people who are doing it? And
And
that's when
this
I
is while
decided.
you were working.
So, yeah, like when I decided to explore that, I decided to quit my job
Okay.
at
Got it.
an ed tech startup where I was handling their engagement. And I was like, okay, let me just, give it my all and try to see if I can do this. And
Hmm.
my parents were really supportive.
Yeah.
And I mean, I understand it's not easy for everyone to make that decision. I understand that that it's a privilege in my life that I was able to do it, but I was able to quit my job and move to the Netherlands. And just from there, for 3 months I lived there and spoke to different refugees and tried to understand what their journey has been and
Hmm.
what they're doing. um, and that experience cemented my decision to become a storyteller and the whole thing. And that's when I started
I
applying
see.
to for masters in the US in creative writing and journalism. And I got through like my dream universities for both the courses. But I picked Northwestern, not because Ranbir Kapoor went there in Ye Jawani Hai Dil,
Yeah,
but because they had like a really solid program.
that's my favorite
And
movie, by the way. Yeah,
really, yeah,
yeah,
it's one of his best for sure.
yeah.
And yeah, like it was just the most amazing experience from there on at Northwestern.
Right. So you mentioned in the start that you thought consulting and changing the world and all that. So you thought that corporate exposure may you sort of change lives and all that, but that did not obviously not happen. That did not
Yeah.
happen. And then you sort of decided to make the transition towards something more, I would say,
Value.
on ground.
Yeah. On the ground, something that inspired me, where I
Hmm.
felt that I was creating some value for people apart from myself. That's what journalism felt like. Like, you're writing and really impact people, even if it's just
Hmm.
one life. That
Hmm.
that's that's what writing means to me.
Right. So you've written a book as well, right? Refugee Change Makers, and you have worked with refugees from Iraq and Syria and all that. So what goes on their mind? They've obviously been through a lot, and you have worked with them one on one. So how has their experience been?
Like, it's so, when you talk to people who've gone through a lot, I mean, you must have experienced it also. You often ask them, like, how did you get the strength to do it? Like, how? And over the years, and in those conversations, especially, I realized, like, it's not an option. Like, you have to be resilient. You have to find
Mm,
out a way. It's not like, okay, one day I wake up and I decide that, okay, from today I'll be more resilient. But for them, like, they have to do it. So, yeah, like, it was there were days when I used to come back to my home and just cry. And I used to miss my parents because those
mm,
conversations were very, very, personal and deep, and just listening to so much trauma of an individual can
yeah,
make you
yeah,
question your existence and why we fight over stupid things in life, or chase
yeah.
stupid things
Also
in
makes
life.
us realize of our privilege. Ki,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah,
Absolutely. So yeah, like, of course, I mean, I had the privilege of calling my mom and crying, and like, why is this happening? But at the same time, I used to redirect my mind and energies to the fact that, okay, you need to get these stories out there,
right.
because it may help in changing the way people perceive refugees. They're not, evil people who are here to
Mm,
take away your jobs and land, but they are
mm,
actually people in need who've gone through a lot,
yeah.
and we collectively need to figure out a way to kind of make it mutually
Mm,
um,
mm,
workable.
right.
So yeah,
And I'm sure it has added a lot to your personality as well, like empathy and all that stuff. So Apurva before the refugee experience and Apurva after the refugee experience, how did it change you personally?
how did it change me? I think I think we expect like major shift to happen in our lives after a big event, but I
Mm-hmm.
would say it's been like a very gradual and a very subconscious thing, if there has been a change.
Yeah.
And I would say more than that experience combined with the fact that I found a mentor in Dr. Daisa Kuikida. I think those two things combined have really changed me as an individual, for
Right.
sure. Like,
Mm.
pre-refugee, before the book, or before finding Dr. Ikeda, I was probably like my priorities in life were different. I looked at life and relationships in a different way.
Correct.
Obviously, I'm still a work in progress, like every other person, but
Yeah.
definitely, like, there's been a shift in what I want to do and what I want to accomplish, and realize that, like, it's not about titles and fame and all that all the time. It's also about
Mm.
doing the actual work and taking pride in that, if that
Mm.
makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does. It seems like you're a very impact driven person, not a materialistic person. You like creating impact, you like making change and all that. Is that correct when I say that?
I would want to, I hope
Mm.
to do that. I don't know if I
Yeah.
am doing it, but yeah, like, at the end of the day, like, if not that, then what legacy are you leaving?
Yeah.
But I'm
True.
not saying I'm doing that at all right now. Like, I'm a long way from that. But the days I feel like I have written a good story that may make some sort of shift in someone's mind, those days are the happiest for me personally.
Nice.
Yeah.
Going back to your experience in the US, Northwestern University, how was that? How did the university shape you as a as a storyteller, as a journalist?
Everything I am, I feel like it's because I was a graduate in finance. I had no experience. I
Yeah.
mean, I didn't know the 101s of journalism. Like there's a pyramid structure, and you need to put the most important details on the top. What are sources? How do you cultivate them? I didn't know what a lead meant or a byline, and
Okay.
everyone used to just throw around those words very casually. For me, it was a big jump. So everything I learned or
From
knew about
scratch.
journalism was from scratch. So everything just
Mm.
contributed in a great way. I
Mm.
love Northwestern because they have a like a dedicated social justice specialization. So
Mm.
even in Chicago, I worked with refugees, and I reported
Correct.
on a few stories of theirs. And this was one refugee from Pakistan actually, who had gone through a lot, and he was in the middle of finding out if he'll be given the rights by the government to stay in the US. So that was a very emotional experience because he did, and it just felt amazing. Um, and then as in Northwestern, I went to South Africa also to report on education and technology, and how
Mm.
things are there.
Yeah.
So yeah, like, and then like I loved how it ended my experience, which was in Washington DC, and they have this whole access to the Capitol Hill, and they give you a press pass, so it
Yeah, I've
just
been there.
felt so
Yeah.
legit. So I had a press
You
pass.
can
I
in
could
fact go
go.
inside as well, right? You can go inside the Capitol
Yeah,
Hall.
you can
Yeah.
go inside. You can talk to people. You can ask for a comment, and it just felt like I was in a movie. So. Um,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think overall, I would say Northwestern played a great role in just teaching me what it means to be a journalist.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I think you worked in the US for a while as well, right? With two companies. How was that experience different from that of India's in terms of journalism in the US, journalism in India? How is it that different?
So see, I was working at National Public Radio, which is
Yeah. NPR, yeah.
with a lot of things, among which they have like radio shows, evening and morning. Then they have like a whole other section on podcasts. I'm sure you know Rough Translation and Visibilia. I'd
Mm-hmm.
actually applied to be on a podcast, but then
Okay.
they somehow moved me to an evening news show, which was just the most fascinating experience. Um, I mean, you're sitting with in a meeting with someone from Boston Globe, on which the character of Spotlight is based. So, I mean, like the first few weeks, I was just coming to terms with the fact like these people are walking around and
Yeah.
they are willing to talk to you and just give you a ear. And one time I literally, yeah, this is one of my favorite podcasts. The host was just walking in the cafeteria, and like I turn and I'm
Uh,
like, oh my god, I love Invisibilia. Like, okay, thank you. So it was a lot of being starstruck. But coming to the professional side of it, I feel, I mean, I was there when the pandemic happened, when an impeachment was going on, and when it was in the middle of the biggest racial awakening ever, US.
is this February
So
of 2020?
yeah, yeah.
I was there also. I was in the US at that
Really?
time. Yeah,
Where were
I was.
you?
So I was there for a month in the US. February 22nd tak I was in US. I spent most of my time in New York, but I was
Okay.
in Washington just a day before the impeachment thing happened in the Capitol Hall.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was good.
So
But yeah,
imagine
you
like there, like at that time, and actually, understanding how all this is reported and thought through
mm,
in one of the biggest news organizations in the US.
yeah,
Yeah, so they're very reflective, they're very empathetic. My team at least was. They're very, very the power distance is much lesser. So,
okay,
like people on the top, I mean, although they are at the top, but you're like with them on the same table and you have the same voice.
Hmm.
You may
Hmm.
hesitate, and that's because that's on you, because you feel you're not
Ha,
experiencing.
I agree. I agree.
They will listen to you and they will
Yeah.
value what you're saying. That, I mean, that's how I viewed it.
Hmm.
Just a very incredible experience, and I think it helped me find my voice to an extent and actually lean into what my ideas and like own them up and actually share them confidently. So that's what NPR
So
did.
so when I went to the US, I was, it was all in my mind. I was like, yeah, they'll think I'm such some idiot guy from India and all that. But when I talked to them, they were treating me as like a normal, any other person. They're
Yeah,
open to listening to what I had to say. And if I said something which was nonsense, tab I would see that, yeah, what is this? They would clearly express that to me. But if I had
yeah.
something logical to say, they'll be more than happy to entertain me. So that was one experience, and I feel US in general makes you very ambitious.
Mhm.
I always say this a lot of times. When walking down the street, you see so many skyscrapers, you just feel so small there. So that just internally, makes you feel कि भाई बहुत कुछ करना है जिंदगी में. That feel is what I got from the US. But where exactly is Northwestern University? Is in Chicago?
Chicago.
कहाँ?
Yeah.
Chicago, right? Yeah, I've not
Northwestern.
been to. I've not been to Chicago. How is Chicago living there? Experience people, atmosphere, and all that. Heard a lot about that place. Sorry,
It's so cold. It's so
it's
cold.
so
It's like
cold.
the coldest place ever imagined. And they had this polar vortex moment in 2019. And it was
Huh.
some minus 30 degrees. And I
Minus
went
30.
out, yeah, and I went outside the apartment just to feel what is minus 30. Because inside it's all heated. You don't
Yeah,
realize.
yeah,
Imagine
yeah.
it's snowing outside and you're like walking in your
Correct,
shorts in the apartment. And
correct.
actually, I walked outside for 3 seconds and my nostrils froze. Like the, that
Oh damn.
that it was so cold, and it gets so gloomy during the winters. It's kind of was I was kind of glad to get out of Chicago and never experience that kind of cold. I don't want to. I don't know how people do it, but yeah, like I wouldn't do it out of choice for sure.
Hmm,
But
got it.
Chicago is a great city. Like, I mean, when it's not cold and it's the summertime, it's the
Yeah,
best. It's the best. It's really, really
got
good.
it.
Yeah.
Right. So how is the you know journalism industry different in India from that of the US in terms of working, in terms of in general?
I guess it would be hard for me to compare because I was working with an audio organization as a
Hmm.
producer, and I'm a
Yeah,
reporter right now. And
correct.
the rigor, and I mean, not the rigor, but just the commitment and the work of a reporter is very, very different from that of an audio producer. So there's a
Hmm.
lot more ownership, there's a lot more, you have to be very, very up to date and plugged in because you own a beat. So I think it would be hard for me to compare, but it's been great. Like, I'm my colleagues are the best. You've spoken to Shafali, and they're just so smart and so down to earth and so
Yeah,
collaborative.
she's very
And
down to earth. Yeah.
exactly, and they're like not protective about their contacts or their stories. Everyone's very, very collaborative and generous. So I think that's been like the best for me. It's worked out really well.
And very willing to like open to learn. I remember Shefali telling me post the podcast ki how do you do this, how do you do that, मेरे को बताते रहा करो what you Gen Z think about and all that, because she also creates content stories around Gen Z, right? So yeah,
Yeah,
I remember. I agree. Mm,
yeah,
makes
Shafali is
sense.
there. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
and
she's
and
very passionate with the Gen Z for some reason.
हाँ, I know the Gen Z lingo and all that, वो काफी curious रहती है उसको लेके, right? And how exactly does a story take place? So from the outside पढ़ने में तो बहुत आसान लगता है कि हाँ पढ़ लिया, but I'm sure there's a lot of effort goes behind, because you have to have sources, you need to have reputable people from the same industry wherein you're creating the story. So what is the process like end to end?
So I guess I would divide the story, like there are two types of stories. There one is a feature story, which is longer and you're exploring a bigger question. And then
Mm.
there are breaking news stories. For example,
Mm.
yesterday when the enforcement directorate issued a show cause
Correct.
notice, that's like a straight story. This happened.
Mm.
You
Mm.
don't really, I mean, you add context, but there is not much to say on the day of the story happening. But for
Right.
feature stories, I mean, firstly, you understand like what is being missed, like what is that angle that's not being addressed or spoken about in great detail.
Interesting. Mm.
Where is that white space in all the reporting that's happened on this topic? And once you identify it, you of course pitch it, and your editor plays a big role in shaping what that final exploratory ex- the final hypothesis looks like for that story.
Correct.
And then, man, it's like just non-stop conversations, research, understanding
Mm.
the spaces. Of course, as journalists, we are not experts in a way that someone who studied that is.
I understand. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So you want to have all the basics, fundamentals right, but you have to tell it in a way that is like a story and engages a reader. So you
Yeah.
talk to experts, you ideally try to get both sides of the piece, like if this is what the industry says, what is the person affected saying, or if this person says something against that person, like what is that person saying. And you try to make it balanced. I don't know if there's anything balanced in this world, but yeah, you try your best
Mm.
to do that.
Mm. I agree.
And
Mm.
like you just, so like it's like a mind map, kitne stakeholders hain around it, and you try to talk to the stakeholders, you try to take their perspective, and then once you have all the
Real
information,
picture. Mm.
which is a lot, then you condense it and fact check it, and then say it in a way that feels exciting and you want to read it.
Mm.
So feature stories can take time. I mean, Shafali only focuses on features. She does like one a week,
Mm.
and the features I worked on, they easily take 8 to 10 days, and these are not even the features you see in New Yorker. I don't know how long those take, because those are like 7,000-8,000 word stories. Even 1,000 or a 1,200 word story, and it's not dependent on word, but they take a lot of understanding and
I
reporting
understand.
out the final point.
Right. And also, I think I'm sure this is a big part of reaching out to stakeholders is another thing. Getting a reply from them is another challenge, and all that must take a
Especially if
lot
it's
of time
pretty
as well.
critical, then so I don't know how long that takes. If it's critical of something or someone, those kind of features, I mean, journalists who get those kind of stories out are like
Uh,
seriously big hats off to
right. So in movies and series, you see a lot of this, Hindi series. So I've seen a lot of CID in my 10-year-old life. जब मैं 10 साल का था, तो बहुत CID देखता था. And I remember this one thing of these journalists having these khabris,
that.
people on the ground uh, who sort of help out journalists and police officers and all these CID, CBI people with what's actually happening on the ground, but nobody knows. Is that a reality in the journalism
Yeah, I
space?
think, I think, I mean, I just started out, so I don't have a lot of khabris yet. But I see my colleagues, especially this fintech reporter on my team, and he breaks the most important stories ever. And you can't break those stories without having these khabris, Um,
Inside people.
yeah, like inside people who trust you enough to share that information
Mm.
with you, and they can trust you enough to know that you will present that information in the right way and not get their name out.
Mm.
So yeah, like yeah, that is true, I would say. Khabris hote hain,
Mm.
but it's amazing the journalists who can do it. I feel it's like a serious art to develop that kind of trust, and it takes maybe a lot of time to do that.
Yeah, yeah. It's you have to be a people person, and you have to be authentic. You can't be
Yeah,
fake. If you're fake, that's a different ball game हो गया. But you have to be authentic with it.
absolutely. I think, I mean, you've seen Watergate, right?
Yeah.
uh, the whole scandal and the movie
Mm-hmm.
on the
I've heard
internet.
about it. Mm.
Yeah, so that guy who the main source of that, the whole story, who gave the whole story out, his name was not revealed until he died. So the journalist did not tell who that source was
Hmm.
until after he died. And that also, before he died, he had told him, like, you can get my name out finally. So
Hmm.
imagine, and literally a government fell after that incident, and still he protected the source. So
Hmm.
yeah, that's incredible.
Right. And imagine the pressure on that reporter to get the name out. Yeah, that must
Yeah,
have been different. Hmm.
exactly.
Got it. So you have done a lot of stories recently around finance, fintech, crypto, and I'm sure because of the lockdown, that it's no news that because of the lockdown, there's a huge influx of not just users but also investors in this particular field. So what's your like you started off with finance, you went to a different field, and now you're sort of again back to finance in a way. So how's that journey
I ask that question to myself all the time, like, how did I end up
been?
with finance again?
Deja vu. Yeah.
Dude, I don't know how it happened, but I guess your question is, what's that journey been like, right? Is that what
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
asking?
As in, how did you land up here again, and what's the current fascination with this industry?
So how did I land up in fintech? Yeah, this was assigned. I was asked to help out on fintech because it's just a vast beat. There's so many
Mm,
companies to track, so many aspects to track,
yeah.
and then fintech merges with so many other industries. There was just like one person covering it on our team, so I was asked to help him out.
Mm,
And while helping him out, I feel crypto felt the most fascinating
for
to
sure.
me because of the people who are into it, like
Mm,
young people who are so like curious about the technology, and and are so excited about the future of the technology. Just talking to those people has been like the most amazing part for me while doing crypto stories, like literally
mm.
15-16 year olds. And
Really?
yeah, and then you have like 45-year-olds and 50-year-olds. Like everyone wants to know what Dogecoin is. It's funny when a 50-year-old person asks that and is willing to invest in that because of whatever reasons. And then you have a 16-year-old who's convincing their parent to let them open an account on a WazirX or a CoinSwitch or a CoinDCX or XYZ and let them trade.
Mm.
So, I mean, just that the spectrum of the investors is like for me the most fascinating part of this whole thing.
Yeah, it's new for everybody. So,
Yeah,
I was speaking to Parin that day. I just told you that as well. He was also saying कि सब किसी को नहीं पता है. Everybody is still exploring. Everybody is still trying to learn. So everybody in a way is an infant. In this
exactly,
industry. Mm.
exactly. And I feel like I'm learning with them, and there's just so much happening every day. And so even if if you see the stories I've done, they're not the focus is not the technology of it.
Correct.
I mean,
Correct.
that is a part of it, but it's more about how it's interacting with the culture. How
Mm.
this whole crypto world is interacting with people, culture, how they are making sense of it, how they are responding to the highs and the lows. So that the whole psychology of it is like really fascinating for me. So
Mm. Got it. This was the crypto side and fintech. How because you have access to such good people. You get in. You have spoken to Nikhil Kamath. You've spoken to Nishchal. You've spoken to Raj. You've spoken to a lot of people. I'm sure. ये तो बस वही हैं जिनके नाम आपने लिखे हैं, but इतने सारे लोगों से you talk on a daily basis. What are your personal insights on this industry? Where is this headed towards? How far will this go in the next 1 or 2 years?
they're all very excited about the young people for sure, and getting
Young
them
people.
to young people like 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds who are new to the whole world of investing,
Mm.
and uh, you know they have some disposable income, and they're taking the ownership of how to invest this money. It's not like maybe our parent generation who had wealth advisors, but this is more of a generation which I found out from talking to people, like they're the do-it-yourself generation.
Yeah.
They want to, invest on their own. They want to find out concepts like how does it work. So of course, like education is playing a big role in getting these people on board, which is what Zero
Hmm.
does for
Correct.
Varsity, or
Yeah.
T-Rex does through the various educational initiatives and tie-ups, or their
You
own
wrote on this. Hmm.
exactly. So yeah, like I think like the younger demographic is definitely the most interesting part, from what I understand, for these people.
Interesting. Yeah, I think lockdown. This is lockdown effect, because a lot of people in the last 1 year have opened Demat accounts and all that. Right. Second last question that I wanted to ask you is what is the best part about your life? Like, being a journalist, being a reporter. I'm sure you love the responsibility and all that, but what's your take? What do you love about this job?
I feel the thrill of unpacking a story is just the most beautiful part. Like when it's
Hmm.
unfolding and you're talking to people, and like the blocks aspects are like falling into place. It's so
अच्छा
thrilling.
ऐसा है,
And
अच्छा ऐसा है, ये रिएक्शन आता होगा.
exactly. Oh my God. And then and of course, man, the platform I have, like getting it out,
True.
paper that's like read by so many people. There's a lot of responsibility, but at the same time, I can't discount that aspect from the whole thrill of the job.
100%. 100%.
So
Got it.
yeah, yeah, that's the
Awesome.
most
All right. So this is a question that I ask everybody at the end of the podcast. Common question. It's not necessarily related to journalism. It's more of a personal question, which is 3 books, podcast, and life lessons that you would want to share. Nothing to do with journalism or whatever we talked about. Very personal question.
Mhm. See, podcast, I would say listen to Invisibilia for sure.
Invisible.
Um, Invisibilia.
Invisible. Yeah. Okay.
Invisibilia. It's this podcast by NPR, and it basically explains how how do unseen aspects in life work, and how they shape us. The
Okay.
best podcast ever.
Hmm.
That's why I
Interesting.
started. Yeah, like that's how I fell with audio reporting in the first place. So that's one of podcast I'd highly recommend. Um, okay, and then so 3 podcasts and 3 books.
Or in
Other
total 3.
The book that really changed my life, and not because it has some major revelations, but just the way I look at life, and I probably found it at a time when I really needed to read it, is New Human Revolution 1. That's by Dr. Daisak Vekeda.
Okay.
And the third podcast I'd recommend is, yeah, this is damn cliche, but The Daily by New York Times is like one of my favorite. I feel like they do
Okay.
an amazing job of breaking down stories, but this is purely from a perspective of someone who's interested in that side of the world,
Correct. Correct.
because
Correct.
they're
US.
not
Yeah.
very international. Uh,
Bilkul.
I would also say that listen to Rough Translation by NPR, because
Hmm.
they have an international coverage and how things are playing out, like things that are happening in the US, but how they're playing out in other parts of the world. It could be
Okay.
about rape, it could be about love, it could be about, like anything you can imagine.
No,
Caste.
interesting picks. Usually people just say people usually say cliched stuff, but this is very different from what people usually say. So, yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
So just to wrap it up, Invisibilia, New Human Revolution 1, and Rough Translation or The Daily. Like these are my.
Got it. Got it. Books.
So yeah, New Human Revolution was a book. Um, and the other books I would say, Why Fish, what's it called? Why Fish Don't Exist.
Okay.
It's a book by Lulu Miller. It's a non-fiction book, and it has nothing to do with fishes actually. I mean, it's more about the
Hmm.
labels we put in our life and how we deal with chaos. And it's based on this life of one person, this one professor who was part of the founding team at Stanford University. It's a really fascinating book. And so I'm into non-fiction more than fiction. So I would recommend
Same.
that book.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm,
Which
mm.
one? Which one do you like? What's your favorite?
I'm more on the self-help side, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I really like Atomic Habits. Can't Hurt Me, if you ever read, by David Goggins. I really like that book. It's not self-help. Self-help and Atomic Habits are deep work. I love these two books. I keep rereading them. Right now, I'm reading this book, Misbehaving. It's on behavioral economics. Usually, how people behave, why do they behave in the way they do. This
Yeah.
is also something which interests me. So yeah.
Wow. I have to check those out. I haven't read that. Okay. So there's one fiction.
Hmm.
Circe. Circe. It's Circe. It's based on Greek mythology, but it has a lot to do with I guess feminism and
Uh,
intersectionality. But it's all told through this goddess, like semi-goddess, uh,
Viewpoint.
like a semi-Greek goddess. Yeah.
Got it.
So that was one fiction book I loved. So Circe, New Human Revolution one, and Why Fish Don't Exist. My
Got it. Got it.
recommendation.
And final question: 3 life lessons that you'd want to share.
One would be take your time, but go for it.
Hmm. Hmm.
Second would be biggest in the bigger scheme of things, nothing really matters. Like day to day setbacks and day to day
Yeah.
experiences. Like just try to have that one anchor in your life you keep going back to and focus on that picture. And third lesson, I would say it's never too late to go for things you really love. I mean, as a 20-year-old, you may think that there are so many folks 30 under 30s around you and you've not done anything in your life, but like that's so not true. It is just go back to the first, like go for it. Don't think too much, and it's not too late to go for anything you want. So just do it.
Yeah. And especially the second point, it's actually very true. I came across this image about life wherein, imagine stock market ka wo, what do I say, trading,
Yeah, yeah,
anything.
yeah.
You got the point, right? So वो
Yeah,
ऊपर ही
yeah,
जाता
yeah.
रहता है, right? And then there's ups and downs and ups and downs and ups and downs, but it's only going up now over a long term. So life is like that, up down वो सब होते रहते हैं, but over a period of time it's only gonna go up. And over the larger scheme of picture, when you zoom out, you see कैसे तो ऊपर ही जा रहा है, you zoom in and नीचे जा रहा है. So I hope that made sense.
It
But
actually does. And I would want to change my third one and say that I would just want to say that the third lesson I've learned is you will be happiest on the days when you're doing something that's not for yourself. So when you are trying to, I
interesting.
don't know, help out a friend or family, and it doesn't have to be materialistic. It can be a simple call to check in, or yeah, like when you have goals that go outside of yourself, and I mean that would keep you happier and keep you going. So that's my third lesson for sure. Like I'm very confident about
Hmm.
that.
But why do you say that? What's the uh, thought process behind this?
Yeah, see, the thing is, like, you will get a job, you will
Uh,
someday make money, you will get that promotion, and still you will find things that are unpleasant when you get there. Because life is not just about that. But at the end of the day, when you're sitting and you're looking back, what will you remember? You might
mm,
remember that conversation that encouraged someone. You might remember a thing you did to help someone out. I think those things simply just stay longer with you, and
mm,
than these personal milestones we set for
interesting.
ourselves, which are equally important. I'm not saying they're not important. I'm just saying having
Yeah.
goals outside yourself makes you feel happier. I think that's for everyone to decide for themselves, but that's what my experience has been.
Mm, makes sense. Got it. That was Apurva Mittal on the 51st episode of the Mini Troubles, guys. Go and follow her on Twitter. Go and connect with her on LinkedIn. Thank you so much, Apurva, once again for coming to the show. I hope you had a good time.
Thank you, Ayush. I hope I had a great time. I hope you did too.
I did.